it even started, right?
Yeah.
So, in conclusion, Stephen King's a whiny bitch, and I want you to keep that in the episode.
Yeah.
Just non sequitur.
I feel like he's come around on The Shining. He'll say now it's a good movie. It's just not the thing that I made. Um,
No
and he
shit.
does,
It's
he makes a point that I understand, although I also get what Kubrick's doing, where he says in Kubrick's version, Jack is a piece of shit from the first second. There's no change. Um, which I get that, but also like I like that. I like that, and I like how just dark and depressing Kubrick's movie is.
yeah, because it's like a slippery slope, right? It just like slowly it's like going downhill, slowly gaining speed, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and faster, and it's stress inducing. Like there's a lot of build up in that movie. It's like a roller coaster. It's like you're going
Yeah,
slowly up and then immediate drop when
yeah.
he goes crazy, then all the
Mm,
ghosts are out. It's great.
I think
Um,
you're right. I think your theory about him not liking it because Jack is Stephen King, so he doesn't like the way Kubrick presents him is probably a good one. Because I think what you see in Kubrick's version is and we've all seen, hopefully we've not lived it, but we've all seen families like this, where there's clearly abuse and struggle, and mom and dad are like kind of smiling at each other, but like just a hair trigger away from yelling at each other. And the kid is picking it up, and the parents think that the kid's not picking it up, but of course the kid always picks it up. That's what you have. Like that first drive when they're driving up, you can see that they hate each other. And I guess that's what King doesn't like. Hey, speaking of King, did you watch this is PCMC everybody. I'm Mike Bongiorno. I'm here with my guest,
Nadia Kader,
Nadia Kader.
hello.
Hi
Hello.
Nadia.
Yeah, hello.
Nadia, did you watch Horror's Greatest?
Yes, I did.
How did you feel about the revelation from Joe Hill that we've all been saying the name of Kuho wrong? It's Kuho, not Cujo.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could have said something 40 years ago.
I know it
Why
feels a
now?
little late on that.
Why didn't you correct it in the movie then?
Right, that was your chance. Stephen King should have been like, "Hey, by the way, just so you guys know, it's Kuho." Um, yeah. Um, I see you wearing a Philip K. Dick t-shirt. Do is that a
Yes, let me show you. So,
yes?
it is like it's a 60s mass market paperback that they made into a t-shirt. So there's this
Yeah.
company called Out of Print. I don't know if you heard of them.
Oh, I have a bunch of their shit.
Oh yeah, it's from
They're
yeah,
the
I bought
best.
it they are in a bookstore and I'm like, please do. Please make more book t-shirts. They're amazing.
Yeah, Out of Print makes basically they just make t-shirts and apparel with book covers on it, old book covers, but the quality is very good. That's where a lot of t-shirts fuck up. Like the quality is good on their shit. I have a Dark Tower one, and I also have one. I actually have two. Remember in the when we were kids there was the library like program that was like read, it would show like a character and it'd be like read. I
Yeah.
have two of those. I have one with Miss Piggy and Kermit with books and it says read, and I have one with Mickey with a book and it says read underneath.
Those were really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually a couple of months ago, I think it was Lit Hub or Electric Literature, one of those like online magazines.
Mhm.
They put out like best of those read posters.
Yeah.
And one of them was David Bowie, like in a Letterman jacket and jeans, and he's jumping in the air and he's just holding a book in front of him, like reading his action or something.
Wow.
And some of those were just a lot of
Well,
fun.
remember the Stephen King one? It's like him and like a skeleton, and they're like reading a book together or some shit. If I
They're like, "Hey,
recall.
you're spooky." Put
Yeah. I think there's one of Yoda reading too.
sure. I think they got
All the stars were out.
all the puppet cartoon and I guess author stars.
They were like,
I
"Hey
wonder
kids, please read."
I wonder if they have R.L. Stine because he's an interesting guy that's, who knows how many of those Goosebumps books he's actually written. But he writes spooky stuff, but he also looks like a dentist. So,
Yeah, he does not. He he's just an older man who looks like he just wants some food. Like he doesn't look scary at all. He looks
Oh
like
my
he's gonna
God.
give you a $5 bill.
Yeah, he's like Uncle Irving or something.
Yeah,
No.
yeah,
What
yeah.
is his name?
Robert Lawrence. Or well, originally he
Foreign.
he published under the pen name Jovial Bob Stein.
Yeah, see, I feel like he has a sense of humor.
Yeah, he did joke books, and he did an adaptation of Ghostbusters or Ghostbusters 2 as Jovial Bob Stein. Um, no, but a lot of those are ghostwritten. They would come out once a month. No one could write a book once a month. Um,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
that's true. That has to be.
But speaking of books, segue,
Mhm.
me and Nadia are here today to talk about a adaptation of a book, the animated The Hobbit from 1977. The Greatest Adventure.
Oh my God, that song.
It's the you could argue that the first of all it's short as hell. It's like 80 minutes. You could argue that the whole movie is just a music video for that song because it keeps reprising. And it's like what's the name of the guy who does it? It's some like really folk it's very folky. Uh, oh, what's his name?
Oh
Uh
man.
I forget. I wrote it down at some point. I'll find it. Oh no, Glenn Yarborough. Glenn Yarborough doing The Greatest Adventure, and it just keeps coming. Every time you're like, okay, we're done with that. Like a whole scene will happen, and then it'll just start again. And you're like, no. And it's the only song that's not like a Tolkien song. The rest are like songs from the book.
Oh my God. I it was way and I know the book is has a lot of musical stuff in
Yeah,
it, but you like forget and then you watch
yeah,
something like this and then it's just constant. It's there's
yeah,
even a point, oh my God, I felt like I was texting you when I was watching this. There was a point where Bilbo was trying to figure out what to do because these like
yeah.
trolls or orcs or whatever, and then the song starts again, but starts at a point where it's like stop thinking and just like and I'm like, is the song telling him what to do? Like just go ahead or something like that. And I'm like, how who timed this?
It ends up being a um a suture for cutting shit out because this is the problem with The Hobbit, which is there's never this is the best version of The Hobbit adaptation. Like this is way better than the live action Peter Jackson movies.
Hot
And
take.
the problem with those are they're too long, so they add shit. And the problem here is that it's too short. It's an hour and a half with commercials because this was a TV movie. So take away the commercials, you've got only like 80 minutes or something. So a lot gets skipped, which is fine, but then a lot gets just truncated. And I have to say, I think the first 30 minutes of this don't work that well because it's just move, move, move. It's just happening. So like I think I wrote this down in the first 5 minutes. We meet Gandalf, we meet all the dwarves, we're introduced to the story, and we're out already. Like it just goes at a breakneck speed. Where if you're a kid, which is when I first saw this, I'm like, what is happening? Um, and like they hit the three trolls. That's like a big, long, interesting scene in the book. Whereas in this, it's like so short to the point of almost being pointless. Because the whole point is that they're subterfuge. It's that like Bilbo's in stealth mode because hobbits can be stealthy, and he's like wandering around and whatever. But like in this one, the trolls are there, and the dwarves are like, "Go over there, Bilbo," and he's like, "Okay." And then he walks over, and the trolls are like, "Hey, what's this guy doing?" And they immediately see him. But he's like, he just walked right into their point of view.
And then
Uh,
he's like, dwarfs run, and they're like, dwarfs.
right. Whereas,
I didn't
like,
even know they were
yeah,
there. And he's like, and they're like, oh, that's a better meal than this Hobbit.
right. You've done the exact opposite of what you should have done. Whereas in the book, like, he's like going around them, and he's like trying to steal shit. But after the first 30 minutes, I think it gets better.
So, like, you're saying this is a movie that's like 80 minutes long. So 30 of those 80 minutes, so more than a third of this movie doesn't work. That's what you're saying. I think my math
Yeah,
is wrong,
I think
but
that the end works, which makes the beginning better. but that could be because I've read it now. I read The Hobbit for the first time like a month ago. So, maybe that's why I get it more now, whereas as a kid it's kind of like breakneck speed. All right, before we get into it, let's stop and reset. Nadia, what's your history with this film?
Okay, so for a lot of my sort of like 20s, I guess, I had these like images of this weird movie that I kind of remembered but didn't understand. And there was these kind of frog-looking troll things, and there was this music that was like ba 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 ba. And
Yeah.
I thought it was like some sort of nightmare I had or something. And then
It's
yeah,
like
and then
the kind of thing that like you see when you're sick as a kid and you've got a terrible fever and you're like,
yeah.
is this real? Somehow it's making
Yeah.
me feel more sick.
Yeah, it's like a fever dream. I thought it was some sort of fever dream where I was mixing a bunch of things together.
Yeah.
And then of course, thank God for the internet. I saw clips of it somehow, and then I'm like, I know what this is now. And I actually 10 years ago I bought the DVD for like $12 on Amazon.
Yeah.
So it was a very bare bone. I think I still have it somewhere, but I for this I watched the streaming. I didn't want to look for it. But basically, it was a very stripped down DVD, very cheaply made. And then that's when I remembered, I'm like, oh, I watched this on a VHS at my grandmother's house, and she would have all these cartoon movies.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, 80s parenting where you just go to the store or Blockbuster or whatever, anything that has a cartoon on it, you
You're
just
like, yeah,
grab
this will be
it.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is fine. Because if I asked my grandmother at that time, she probably had no idea what The Hobbit is. She just grabbed
Right.
something that looked cutesy. And I probably had a lot of those knockoff kind of crap
Yeah, yeah.
movies. And not to say this isn't really knockoff. Actually, this is way better than I thought it would be. Especially I watched it, like I said, when I bought that DVD. I watched it again recently for this
Yeah.
podcast. I'm like, this is actually pretty solid for a TV movie. I
It's
think.
it's artistic quality and design and animation, I think, is actually very good.
The animation's great. The setting, the in the background, the paintings are gorgeous. I think
Oh yeah.
the character design's kind of creepy.
Yeah,
But
that's a
not
little creepy.
it's a
Although
little
accurate,
creepy.
I feel. Accurate to the book.
Yeah, like the description of Gollum was interesting because the Gollum that we're familiar with from the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings
Yeah.
movies, which was a great performance and not taking anything away from Anthony Serkis, right?
Yeah.
Someone
Andy Circus.
Andy Serkis. But it's it's a great performance, but it's also he doesn't really look the same. And in
Right.
the book, he's way more kind of monstrous. Where
Right.
I guess he kind of is, but it's just
Well,
different.
Andy Serkis's Gollum is you can tell that it's not in The Hobbit, right? But in The Lord of the Rings, they explain that Gollum was basically a hobbit or something close to a hobbit and devolved because of the ring. But that's not explained in The Hobbit. And in this, he doesn't look anything like a hobbit. He doesn't look like a sick, devolved hobbit. He looks like an evolved frog or something. There's actually a lot of amphibian looking things. Like I feel like the goblins look very amphibian. Even the wood elves have a very weird like blue. They're like blue skinned. That I really like some of that design.
It was definitely interesting, but also it felt at the same time kind of dated. Like it was very
Sure.
clearly like 70s,
Oh yeah,
60s kind of design. But it's not a bad thing. It's just like it's of its time. But yeah, and there was also in the character design, there's also a lot of like lines. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of wrinkles
yeah,
and stuff on skin.
hmm
And not for people that necessarily are supposed to look old. Like Gandalf looks old
yeah,
because
yeah,
he is, but some of the humans and the elves
yeah,
had a lot of lines. Also, did you notice that everyone's hands were like huge? Like especially the dwarfs and the
yeah, yeah,
hobbits.
yeah. Yes, yes.
It was like, why does a hobbit have like giant man hands, but like a smaller body? Like I
Yeah.
feel like his hand was like the size of his head.
Yes. The actual design of Bilbo with its like his like curly hair is very interesting. But probably, when you look at the Lord of the Rings films, live action films, and you look at like Frodo, it's kind of like you tried to make a cute leading man Hobbit, which is weird. Um, almost as weird as in the Peter Jackson Hobbit movies where they tried to make Thorin a leading man, hunky dwarf.
I did
Uh,
not see this. I have to look this up now.
oh, look up Thorin. They're basically trying to make him look like Aragon. He's like they really try to. The problem with well, I don't know if you want to call it a problem, but the thing about the book and this cartoon is you can't tell these 13 dwarves apart. They all have similar names. But the live action movies tried to, and they tried to make Thorin like the lead in a way, the second lead besides Bilbo. Um,
Yeah, he looks kind of hunky, but I'm like, come on, man.
a hunky,
They're
a hunky,
hunky dwarf,
hunky
please.
dwarf. Yeah. Um.
But you're right, they have no distinguishing characteristics, and usually when they're mentioned, except for the end when, spoiler alert, some of them die,
Yeah.
it's like all their names are said almost at the same time, like in a line. Like
Right.
kind of like exactly like how a children's nursery rhyme would go or something,
It's like
right?
a rhyme, right? Because their names rhyme. Like as there's this one and then one and their names are rhyming. It's very like Dr. Seuss even.
Yeah, and they all almost look the same too. I think some of them look younger, so like some of them have blonde hair
Yeah.
and like no beard, but then the other ones have beards, and it's just
Yeah.
like, but other than that, they look the same. And then when people are dying, that's when I guess Bilbo remembers their names.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, this guy I didn't have any screen time with
Yeah.
is gone. But yeah, I see what you mean, and it's kind of interesting because they're kind of, I guess for lack of a better term, they're very stout and dumpy kind of looking, especially the
Yes, yeah.
Hobbit. And he's maybe half an inch shorter than the dwarves. And then of course Gandalf, who's like human size, is um towering over everybody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so it was just it's very strange to have like a bunch of just short people on this really
It's
important
striking. It's
mission.
striking looking. I'm not a I mean I love art, but I don't have any talent in art. So I don't, I'm not totally great at figuring out how things are done, but to me it seems that everything's done in watercolor and then on top of that there's ink lines. Because there are, like you said, there are a lot of those lines like very detailed like curls in Bilbo's hair and the lines in their faces, but that's all on top of really nice looking watercolor, which gives the whole thing a sort of like illustrated fairy book kind of vibe.
Yeah, I think that was a really good choice.
Yeah,
And again,
it looks
for a
great.
television movie, like I feel like, and I was looking at the Wikipedia
Yeah,
just to catch myself up on other stuff, and some of the original negative reviews of this movie where like the animation looks terrible, and I'm like, well, it's a TV movie. It's not going to be huge budget.
right, right.
It's not going to be like a feature length, but I think for the time and
It looks
for the
great.
constraint, it looks
I think it looks
great.
great.
Yeah, and you're right. It looks like it almost looks like an illustrated Hobbit's book that come
Yeah,
to life. I don't know if you
what?
noticed this, but
Yeah,
they didn't at the beginning of the movie when they had when Gandalf first appears, and by the way, he just comes out from like behind a tree.
yeah. And it's like weird. There's
It's
this
so weird, man.
there's
But
this musical motif in the film that when I heard it again recently, it brought me back to childhood because it's very creepy and melancholic, where it's like dun 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 dun, and it's sort of like sad sounding, and he just pops out from behind a tree. And in the book, they know each other, like they already have a relationship. But in this, he just shows up out of nowhere, and he's like, "You're gonna come and do this."
here's a
Um,
contract.
yeah,
Here, which is like so, and they reference the contract at least two times after that, which is
right.
so just so you don't forget this was all legit. Because
Yeah.
there's one, but or before we get into that though, I wanted to say like at the beginning when Gandalf just appears, there's like thunder and lightning,
Yeah.
and Bilbo's in his little hobbit hole and he's looking out, and all of a sudden he just appears. There's one point where the thunder actually sounds like someone going like with their mouth. But they
I
don't
think
repeat it and the rest of the movie when they do more Thunder and Lightning, you don't hear it. But in the beginning, you hear
fantastic.
that once, and I'm like,
That
this is hilarious.
it's possible. Well, let me
Yeah.
tell you. Let me give you some stats. This aired on NBC on November 27, 1977. So it's a Thanksgiving event. 77, of course, a big year. Star Wars comes out in 77. Eraserhead comes out in 77. A lot of great films come out in 77. It's one of those pivotal years. It's written by Romeo Mueller, who was an animation writer. He wrote for different animated stuff. It's produced by Rankin and Bass. People tend to associate them with stop motion stuff because they produced Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and The Year Without Santa Claus, but they actually did mostly traditional animation stuff, including like Thundercats.
I think they did The Last Unicorn too, which that one is also a interesting kind of dark movie for children.
Mm,
Um, but that it's funny to say that because when you compare and I know it's really hard to, but when you compare this movie to like the Santa Claus or the Rudolph Red-Nosed Reindeer, that kind of stuff,
yeah,
that stop motion stuff does look really low budget and cheap and does not,
yeah.
I feel like it has not
Well,
aged well.
did you read this? This the animation studio who actually did the animation, right? They were called Topcraft, and they were a Japanese company, and Topcraft became Studio Ghibli. So this is like a Studio Ghibli film,
Imagine
although
putting
cheaper.
that, yeah, like
But
putting
you can
that in the
see it,
line.
can't you? The nature, like the natural detail. You
Hmm.
can see that, I feel. I feel like I was surprised because no one ever talks about it, but I wasn't like shocked by that. I was like, yeah, I could see Studio Ghibli in this. Just
Yeah, same. The only thing I guess what really stands, I mean, Studio Ghibli has a lot of incredible stuff, but what always stands out to me in comparison is to American animation's food. Like
oh yeah,
generally, yeah, generally Ghibli and animated food is absolutely gorgeous. Like it looks,
right.
there's such care in the design and the coloring.
Like
And
all
then when
the marketplace where in Spirited Away, like that like food market where like the adults are turning into pigs as they're like eating shit.
hmm
Yeah,
It
it
looks
looks very good.
great.
Yeah.
And I think until recently, it in American, just comparing it, American animated movies, it's like gray mush on a plate.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like that's the least you care about.
Yeah, yeah. So what else? This movie won a Peabody Award.
Well
Um,
deserved.
yes. So the weird history of Lord of the Rings in animation is this is made by Rankin and Bass, and then Ralph Bakshi, who did we
He
did
did
an
Fritz
episode
the
on
cat.
Fritz the Cat, right? We did an episode on it. Look up on our feed. And he did heavy metal too, right? He did a bunch of shit. Cool World. Ralph Bakshi, he did a lot of like adult animation in the 70s. He does a Lord of the Rings that looks very different from this. But only covers like up until the middle of the second book. But then Rankin and Bass come back and do the Return of the King, going back to this animation style. So you kind of have the whole story in these three little animated movies, but not really. And by the way, that's the one I've never seen. I've never seen their Return of the King in this style.
I've seen clips from the Bakshi movies and they're not great.
What's interesting, I haven't seen it in years, so I can't really speak to it. But the thing that stood out to me is that he does a lot of rotoscoping. So, like in the battle scenes, it's clearly action, like live action people that he's like using in silhouette and like painting over.
Yeah, that's the stuff I remember the most, and I feel like it's kind of hard to watch, like for a
Mm,
long time. Like seeing a clip or two is it's interesting, but like the more you watch it, it's just it doesn't quite work. And I
yeah.
could see what he was trying to do. One of his other movies was I'm just looking this up because there was a time where I was trying to watch a lot of Bakshi stuff because he makes animation that we've never seen before or since, like honestly. He did a movie called Heavy Traffic.
Heavy traffic, that's
And
what I was thinking of, not heavy metal. Heavy
okay,
traffic,
yeah.
yeah.
Heavy Traffic, Hey Good Looking, American Pop, Cool World, like you said. But like there's I think it might have been Heavy Traffic that I saw that where there was like a dance off and they it was clearly using rotoscoping and you
Yeah,
could that kind almost worked but
yeah.
not quite, and I think the studio ran out of money at some point because there was
Well, yeah,
stuff in the
that
story
happens
that
to
they
him a
didn't even.
lot.
Yeah, he like runs out of money like mid-production and then they have to like figure out how to
Well, that's what
work
happened with
with
Lord
it.
of the Rings. It's like half a story. It's like, and more stuff happens next time, and next time never came.
Next time on Lord of the Rings.
So my history with it is my dad is like an old school Tolkien fan. Like he read Lord of the Rings a bunch of times. I remember as a kid him just reading it over and over and over again. And so this was like big in my house, in my family. Um, and that was a time before Lord of the Rings was like a household name. Like people knew about it because they were famous books, but it wasn't like every kid in the world knew about it. Now post the Peter Jackson movies, it is like a household name. But when I was a kid,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
and for years, this movie, the Bakshi movie, and then the Return of the King animated film, that was it in terms of Lord of the Rings media. That was as good as it you were ever going to get. If you wanted to see those books come to life, because the idea was they're way too big. There's way too much. It's impossible. Which is why I still think I am actually a huge fan of the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings films. I mean, obviously there's tons of changes and stuff, but I think that is still a crazy achievement. It's just his Hobbit movies are so misguided. Um, Now originally there was supposed to be a two-part Hobbit movie done by Guillermo del Toro, which I
Hmm.
think could have been really interesting, especially because Guillermo del Toro I think would have fit more with the tone of The Hobbit, which is more mystical and magical than Lord of the Rings. Um, but yeah, so this was a big thing in my family, and the other thing I want to say is this movie has some crazy casting. There's some crazy casting. Gollum is played by the comedian slash performance artist brother Theodore, who you could see a lot of him on David Letterman, being weird. Otto Preminger, the the Austrian filmmaker, plays the Elven King, and you've got, of course, John Huston as Gandalf, which I think is really good. But then maybe another really weird choice is sort of like Western cowboy actor named Richard Boone is Smaug. And Smaug he's the only like American sounding character really in the movie. And so it's so weird that they go to meet the dragon and the dragon sounds like a cowboy and no one else sounds like that. It's just
Well,
very weird casting. But
but also, like, why does the Wood Elf King sound Austrian? Because he's
right.
voiced like it's so
Yeah.
odd. And then of course John Huston has a very distinct
Yeah, he's great.
gravelly
Yeah.
gravitas voice. You
Right.
know, John Huston
And I
is
guess
like
that's American too, but not a very different kind of American voice.
yeah, it's I gotta say John Huston is like haunting me lately because it's like this
Sure.
movie because I forgot he was in it and I watched it this Wednesday. So I have this movie meetup where we meet up and we do kind of like random screenings and every it's a revolving of who picks what and you don't know what you're gonna get. So it's kind of like a Kinder Surprise but movie.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And so yeah, so this one of the people that brought came in brought Myra Breckenridge.
Oh yeah.
So John Huston is in that playing the rich owner of an acting school in
Yeah.
Hollywood, but he's dressed like a cowboy and he has this
Yes.
giant stupid white American like 10-gallon hat. And I'm like, okay, this is cuckoo bananas. Then like a month ago, again, I'm going to those movie nights and someone else brings a movie where John Huston is I wish I can remember this movie. But basically the concept is the American president was assassinated
Mm.
and his brother is uh Kurt Russell who's trying to solve the crime and the whole movie is just like conspiracy theory if a
Uh-huh.
conspiracy theorist wrote a movie about conspiracy theorists and John Huston played the American president's father and he's this
Weird.
big dude who's
Yeah.
just gravelly and he has his hands and everything and he's siphoning money and putting money into things, and it's such a wackadoo weird movie. And then spoiler for a movie that I don't remember the title, John Huston dies by falling out of a window
Mm,
and through a giant American flag.
sure.
Like the most symbolic weird
Yeah.
nonsense. And I'm just like, how much of John Huston can I take in this the last
He's a bit
month?
gravelly. I don't know if I call his voice gravelly. There's a little, it's rough around the edges, but I think it's like it's deep in this very weird way. Um,
Oh yeah.
he's sort
I
of
I,
perfect for Gandalf. You and I
I
did
think so.
yeah, you and I did an episode of PCMC on the Orson Welles movie, The Other Side of the Wind, where he's basically playing Orson Welles, but in a very negative way, like a real creepy piece of shit alcoholic film director.
Which Orson Welles was directing. Like
Right.
that's like I'm like that is interesting. I'm like Orson, did you have to like one of your ex-girlfriends like write this part? Like I don't understand.
Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah. So John Huston's later career is very strange. Like his acting choices or the movie choices that he's acting in are very strange. And you're right, he absolutely works in this as Gandalf. He's a great Gandalf, but
Yeah.
I would have never thought of that. I would have never if I was in the 70s and all these famous older actors with gravitas kind of voices, I
Yeah.
don't think I would pick Houston. I don't know who I would pick, but
Right.
I can't imagine.
Well, who the fuck would think to pick any of these people? I mean, Brother Theodore, the only other like movie I can think of him in is he's in the Joe Dante movie, what's it called? Neighbors? No, Neighbors is not the name of it. What's the Joe Dante movie where it's Tom Hanks,
The Burbs.
The Burbs, right? And he's the weird like German neighbor that they sneak into his house.
Oh my
Um,
goodness, I
but
forgot about that.
but he's perfect as Gollum. He's got like it's just like it sounds like it hurts him to talk. It's perfect. It's such good casting.
Yeah, like it doesn't not work. Like even
Yeah,
the strangest choices are still like okay. Like it doesn't take you out of the movie. So it's very interesting and I'm just wondering what were these conversations? Like how did
yeah.
these people come together for this movie? And to a more obvious but like lesser extent like looking at some of these the cast, one of them is Don Messick who voiced like Scrappy Doo.
And Scooby Doo.
And Scoob, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Was
he's one of the one of the he's a random
Elf or something,
dwarf.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, sorry, dwarf, yeah. Yeah, so all of it was just
yeah. There's a lot of Americans in it doing different accents. Um, yeah, you know you could tell that this was like cartoon people, like because a lot of what they're pulling from are like that world of that kind of production world. Um, the Bilbo is voiced by a guy named Orson Bean, who's a character actor you might recognize his face. He lived into 2020 until he then died at the age of 91 by being hit by a car. This is such a side note, but doesn't it always, isn't it always weird when somebody lives super long and then dies in an accident? Like
uh
91 and he died by being hit by a car.
yeah, I mean they haven't released anything yet, but we're recording this
Yeah,
when Gene Hackman died and he was in his 90s, but him and his wife and a dog
we're all
died
dead. Yeah,
under mysterious circumstances, which I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, I mean maybe if I mean like he was like 93, 94 something like maybe if he fell or something, but his wife was like 30 years younger
And
than
why
him.
did the dog die?
Why was the dog dead in a closet? Why didn't anyone check on these people for
It's very
2 or 3
weird.
weeks? It's all weird. And I'm sure by the time this comes out, we'll figure something out. But anyway, it's like, it's always
Yeah.
weird when someone, like you said, someone that old dies in a weird way
Do
because
you
it's kind
know?
of like you live
Yeah.
this long and then this happens.
Do you know how
Yeah.
Kurt Vonnegut died?
No.
He was living, I think, in New York, and on a snowy day, he slipped outside his front door on the stoop and hit his head, and then died later
Oh.
that day. So blunt force trauma. Like, and he was old.
Wow.
Like like what a shitty way to die. Like he tripped and hit his head, and that's it. Uh,
That's usually how it goes. Like,
but by the way, see the monkey because the monkey is even though it's a comedy horror, it's all about this. It's all about like the frailty of life, and you come out of it like feeling like, you know what, that silly movie had something to say. Um, like life is just you, it's just we're just like these little pieces of meat that like are we're alive until something hard hits us, and then we don't live anymore. Like it's just so it's crazy that we live at all. Um, anyways, so let me ask you a question. Who is your favorite female character in this movie?
What female characters?
That's right, it was a trick question. There is not a single female character in
S-
this film.
Somehow.
Not a single one, no.
But doesn't that happen like in the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings movies where like there I remember seeing like like a meme or something of like um two women interacting in the Lord of the Rings, and it's just like one woman saying something to like a waitress or something, and then that's it. Like those are
Well,
the
yeah, it's like the it's like the Bechtel cast edit or whatever, and it's like no, the Bechtel test edit. Not
Yes.
Bechtel cast is a podcast. The Bechtel test edit or whatever, and it's like here's all the scenes where women talk to each other, and it's just like, "Mama, I don't want to go." Ba 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 ba. Directed by Peter Jackson. Um,
Yes. Okay, thank you for
they made
remembering
it.
that.
They made an effort in those, and this I don't fault them for this at all. I They made an effort in those movies and in his Hobbit movies to add female characters. Um, but no, there's no female characters in this.
I don't think there were female characters back then. I think in the
No, they
30s
weren't invented yet.
they were women weren't invented yet.
There are wait let me think. Wait, you know what? There is a female. No, that's Lord of the Rings. I was thinking Bilbo has a cousin that like wants his house, but that's Lord of the Rings.
Isn't it weird though? Like, so this book that the movie's based off came out in 1937.
Yeah.
He kind of worked on stuff for years, and then the people really wanted a sequel. It took a while, and then he came out with like the Similarion, and everyone's like, "No, we don't want a textbook. Get out of here." So then he eventually comes out Lord of the Rings like 30 years later or something. The
And it's like, you know,
it's so
they
different.
wanted a sequel to The Hobbit, and it's like 10 times the length of The Hobbit.
And it
He wanted
feels
one book.
different.
The publisher was like, this needs to be three books, three volumes. Like, this is, but it's one book. Like, it's written as one book, and he saw it as one book. And it's so fucking, I mean, it's me. I was saying this on the podcast recently. Like, the thing that I feel like people don't talk about with Tolkien is how fucking insane this behavior is. This is insane. This is a madman. Like, um, if this stuff wasn't interesting and you just found like let's say your grandpa dies and you find like there's just tons and tons of notebooks filled with gobbledygook and made up languages, you'd be like, oh, my grandpa was an insane person. But this just happened to be interesting to people, so we're like, oh, what a genius. But it's madness. It's absolutely madness. He makes up his own language and then makes up songs. His own song. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I feel like because of his study, I think that's a lot of it is like he was an academic that was kind of writing his own almost fan fiction in a way, and that's what we end up with. Like there's a lot of similarities in just style and story structure between The Hobbit and Beowulf, and he's a
Yes.
Beowulf scholar. And also like I was also reading that The Hobbit because it was the Lord of the Rings supposed to be a sequel to it, they actually later had in later editions of The Hobbit, they actually changed some things so it actually matches the Lord of the Rings better
Right, yes, they
because it
changed it.
doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I'm like, why does it have to be? It
Right.
why couldn't it
Right.
just be like the same? I mean,
Well,
technically it does.
it's like the George Lucas thing. Like, but at least he admitted it. Where George Lucas goes like, I always wanted it to be this way. Like, at least Tolkien was like, I didn't know what the ring was when I wrote The Hobbit, and then later on I figured out what the ring was, so I went back and changed it.
Yeah, which
Um,
is it's fine, but I mean, you could have written other things. Like it didn't have to be like this ring was so damn important because it was so damn important, and yet it was just
Makes you
randomly.
invisible in this. That's what it's like the invisibility cloak that you have later on. Like, that's all it is. It makes you invisible.
But something about it corrupts your. That's the thing that's weird.
Well,
Is
that
like it
comes
makes
later.
sure, but
Remember, this animation is made after Lord of the Rings becomes a big book. because they never say Middle Earth in The Hobbit. But in this animated film, in the beginning, Gandalf says Middle Earth. So, and it even ends like in a very, if you remember the very end of this animated movie, they talk about, like, they hint at Lord of the Rings. They say something about like Bilbo's descendants will
Yeah, I'm
something,
like,
whether it's just, it's sort of, it's a real, it's not, it's kind of sweaty, it's not very well put in.
no,
Um,
it's very sloppy, but I gotta say I can't quite remember. You read it more recently than me, but I
yeah.
read The Hobbit like maybe 10 years ago, and I don't have a history with it.
Mm.
I think I'm the only nerd in my family, so I don't know
Yeah.
how this happened. But no one gave a shit about Lord of the Rings. I and I was just grabbing whatever I could at the library, but for whatever reason, I never grabbed any Tolkien stuff, right? But I read The Lord of the Rings like 10 years ago. Probably around the time I got that DVD. And I was reading it and I remember being so annoyed about how whiny Bilbo is. Like I felt like he wasn't a strong character. But
No,
then
he
watching this movie,
complains a
he
lot. He complains.
yeah.
There's a lot of I want to go home. I wish I was back in my Hobbit hole.
Yeah, he's such a little
Um,
baby, but like in this movie they clean him up. Like
oh,
he
well, I have to. I know what you're saying, but I have to say, I do think in the book he gets a little bit. They do this thing where they talk about how the two sides of his families are very different. He, like, on his mother's side, his mother was a Took, and the Tooks are more adventurous. Um, and like in the book, when he decides to do something adventurous, he'll say like, "This is my Took side taking
hmm
over." But you're right. In this animated film, he, well, again, it's because it's so truncated. They have to have him get on board much quicker. Like he's got to like be like, okay, I'm doing this, instead of like dragging his feet the way he does in the book for so long.
I totally get what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you at all. The thing is, like, reading a main character complain so much, I feel like that made it drag for me. Whereas if he
Yeah.
kind of, and I get, like, in the movie they're in good, but imagine if, like, if Bilbo was complaining for the 77 minutes of this movie. Like, every time, right? And the only thing they do in this movie that's even close to that is when he has a nightmare about the dwarfs eating all his food, and there's a song playing about how they're taking advantage of his hospitality.
That well, that happens, and that's in the book too. And what's
Yeah.
funny is his name is in the song, because it's like, do you dwarves just have a song about eating people's shit, and then you just plug in whoever's name that you're doing it to? Because there's lyrics of the song where like, that's what Bilbo Baggins hates, and it's like, not only did you come to my house uninvited and eat all my shit, you're singing a song with my fucking name in it. If somebody came in my house and were like, "And Mike Bongiorno fucking sucks," I'd be like, "Hey, that's
Get
not
out of my
nice.
house.
Get out of here. Why do you have a song with me in it?" But that, you know what? That's also the difference in tone. The Hobbit is more like fun. It's silly. You know, there's a part in it where the book, I mean, where Bilbo is, he's trying to steal something from one of the trolls' pockets, and something in the, I forget what it was, a knife or something, or his wallet maybe. There's something in his pocket that goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" And like literally that's it. And scholars, I looked it up when I read it. I was like, that's so weird. And like scholars have been arguing for like 40 years as to like whether that's literal, like the thing in his pocket literally spoke, or it is symbolic of something, like it made a lot of noise and therefore it was like it spoke.
Oh
I
my
think it literally
God.
spoke. I think when he wrote The Hobbit, he did, he wasn't thinking about, well, he was thinking about lore. I almost said he wasn't thinking about lore. He absolutely was always thinking about lore. But I don't think the world was as grounded. So yeah, he was like, yeah, this thing's magical, it talks. And I
Why
think
not?
it's the scholars later on that have a hard time dealing with that.
Because it kind of comes out of nowhere and then it
Yeah.
doesn't like come back. So like
Like you, because there's other random shit that doesn't talk.
that actually makes it funnier because I actually thought or imagined that it was just like something that an editor forgot. Like he like it was something that was supposed to be in the story but was changed and they just didn't fix it. And then
Yeah.
that just became part of the story. I
Yeah.
don't know. We'll never know, but it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
like you said, it's all about lore and all these like legends and folk tales about adventurers who experience this magic without explanation. So it makes
Yeah. Yeah.
in that sense it makes sense, but like not
Yeah.
it's just confusing, but it's funny to think that there's just Tolkien scholars arguing about this before. Imagine being at like the
Yeah.
conference and like, oh, those are the thing literally talks side. I'm over here on the
And we
figurative
fucking
side.
hate each other.
It's like the cliques of Tolkien
Yeah.
scholars.
Um,
Oh man.
so getting back towards the text, I think, like I said, the first 30 minutes I think kind of goes too fast. I think the movie, the best sequence is the Gollum sequence.
Mm.
It plays its tone is right. It's scary and interesting. Um, it doesn't cut out too much. It cuts out a little bit of some of their riddling. But it basically plays it all out well. Brother Theodore doing the voice is very scary. Um, and I think he looks very scary, Gollum. And I think that's the turning point because I think from that point on things play out much better. But that alone is like I think a perfect little scene. And kind of like the standard, right? Because even like in the Peter Jackson one, it's basically just that exact same scene. Like they kind of got it perfect in this. They got the vibe of like they're deep underneath a mountain in like almost pitch black dark, and there's like water and this scary little monster that you need him to help you find a way out.
Yeah, but he's talking to you, but also talking to himself, and then
Right.
also talking to the ring.
And also
It's
like
frightening.
openly considering eating you.
Yeah, like no filter, no
No
internal
hashtag
thoughts.
no filter, Gollum. I'm
Um,
right here. Stop talking about eating me.
well, it's also in comparison to the other scenes, because except for the big battle at the end,
Yeah,
how it plays out is like they're on this long journey, and then some scary monsters come, they run away or figure a way out of it, and then they're back traveling, and then different scary
yeah,
monsters. It's a lot of running away more than
yeah.
like actual action. And
Yo,
even
yeah.
though it's riddle based with the Golem, it works because those are the strengths that they both have. Because they're
Yeah.
not fighters, really.
Well, they say that Tolkien was a World War II veteran.
One.
Oh, yeah, right. Was it? Yes, a World War One veteran, right? Because he was already older man in publishing during World War II. Um, and he didn't like war. So the Battle of the Five Armies, which the stupid fucking Peter Jackson movies made that into one whole movie. Um,
It
in the
sounds really
book and
boring.
in the book and in this, Bilbo gets hit by a rock and then passes out, and he wakes up and it's over, and people are dead. And people read that as like he didn't want to make it look exciting. Which I think I don't know. I think that's charming too. It makes sense.
Well, it's hard to imagine. Like, I know Frodo is later, like
Yeah,
Bilbo's nephew is later, like more of a kind of action-oriented character, but Bilbo never was. Like, and his interest in adventuring really wasn't fighting. And I wish
yeah,
I could
and he
remember
doesn't
where,
care about the gold too. Like I wanted to talk
yeah,
about this because you see like ideas in this that then Tolkien develops more later. The way the gold, the dwarves' treasure that Smaug is has captured for all these years, it works in a very similar narrative way that the ring does later. Because once the dwarves have the gold back, they're kind of assholes. Like the Battle of the Five Armies at the end. It's interesting because the story basically ends when they defeat the dragon, or a human defeats the dragon for them, and then the dwarves get their gold back. So it's almost like this should be the end, but then other people are like the people from the town that the dragon destroyed were like, hey, the dragon destroyed our town and killed our people, and we're all fucked up. And this is your fault. Give us some of your gold. And they're like, fuck you, we're not giving you any of our gold. And Thorin kind of becomes an asshole. And it seems like again, it's like a very like moral idea of like, whether it be the gold ring later on, which represents power, or the treasure in this story, it's like it's man's folly. Like We are totally for the dwarves and we feel for their struggle when they're on their way to go on the adventure. But once they get there and they have the gold back, they're being assholes about it and start and fighting battles about it.
Oh yeah, it's corrupting.
Yeah.
Almost immediately. And what I think was really interesting, I wish I remember what it was, but I was reading something where Tolkien wrote an introduction,
Uh-huh.
and he wrote about how, oh, people say, and this was years after World War One, of course, he's like, people say that I'm writing about my experiences, but everyone lost people. That just happened. It's
Yeah.
nothing. It was
He
like
was
he was in complete denial
he was
that
very,
this.
very anti interpretation.
Yeah, he was an anti-interpretation and also like nothing kind of surface level. He's like, no, I just wrote this. It doesn't mean I'm thinking about all these friends I had that died in front of me at 19 years old.
Right, right.
Like, I was like, all right, Tolkien, settle down,
I
man.
believe that he believes that. But
Oh, sure.
yeah, but any artist lives in the time that they live, and of course that comes out. Whether you're I don't think he said, okay, this is that, and these are the Germans, and these are the, I think it just came out. It just came out. How can it not? Like I mean, you see very clear things from his life in it.
Yeah, it's subconscious. It's like he's
Yeah.
he's not totally where he's doing. So it's not like he's necessarily denying something that's true so much as he just wasn't aware of it. Um, can we talk about how Gandalf just kept like fucking off and then coming back randomly and like leaving like what
Do you remember
that
in the book what he does? The book has more of an indication of where he's going and what he's doing. Um,
I don't remember. I just remember
he
like he
goes
was
to
doing stuff.
he goes to deal with the necromancer, um, who's very underdeveloped, and then later on, Tolkien was like, "I think the necromancer is Sauron." It's like, okay. Um, Well, you know what it is? I realized that, like, we talk about how George Lucas stole everything from Dune. Like, a lot of Star Wars comes from Dune. But
Hmm.
he's also taking things from this, too. Because Gandalf, you realize that he's like the idea of the Jedi. Like, he's a wizard, but also, like, his main job in the world is as a political operative. He's moving pieces around the board. Um, so him coming and going kind of makes sense because he's got other little missions to do. I think it works for the story because Gandalf is he's so overpowered that he would like having him there would like make the adventure easier. Even in Lord
Hmm.
of the Rings, they get rid of him at some point. Right? You can't have him the whole way because then he'll just fucking
Right.
use his staff and then everything will be easy.
Yeah, because there would be really no conflict. It would be like
Yes.
it would be like Superman without kryptonite. Like they had to
Right.
introduce that later on because he
Right.
was too overpowered. But you're totally right. But at the same time, like watching this movie and thinking about that is really weird because that's not a structure we're used to of someone
No.
just disappearing from the narrative and then coming back when it's convenient. It's very strange.
Yeah, I was saying I was actually talking about this also on the podcast with Janine that I don't think he obviously thought a lot about all this stuff, but he didn't think like I think contemporary writers think when they think about structure and like how to sell a book.
Hmm.
Like I don't think he thought about like that's bad structure, a good structure. You know what I mean? I think he thought about like almost like the reality of the weird world he was creating. Like I don't think he ever made choices like, "Oh, I should bring this character back because that would be good for the story in a way." You know what I'm saying?
No, I believe it. I also think back to like what we were talking about, like the long period of time between The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I don't think he intended to have more of the story. I
Yeah.
think that kind of happened later with some pressure from, the
Right.
popularity as well as publishers. But I don't think he ever meant for this to be the sprawling kind of series it is. And when you talk about Lucas taking from this, I totally agree with you. There's a I know there's a lot of kind of touchiness about the difference between sci-fi and fantasy,
Uh-huh.
but I think there are clear delineations. And Star Wars, just because it's in space and they use spaceships, does not mean it's science fiction.
Right.
It
Right.
actually takes a lot of structure from these fantasy and
Yeah.
modern fantasy. Well, it's changing now, but modern fantasy has been defined by Tolkien's work for
Yeah.
decades. And he got that from, again, like myths and legends and like Beowulf and like, I guess, like King
Yeah.
Arthur, like that kind of stuff. So it makes sense that like how different it looks because if
Yeah.
you look at sci-fi, a lot of it is more about the technology and what happens with that, the ethics of that. Whereas like in fantasy, it's more about, um, you know, human lives with this with magic or
Yeah.
whatever this giant overpowered thing is. That's not necessarily their creation. I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing is like,
No, it's completely foundational. Even though he's building off of other stories and other fairy tales, this becomes foundation. I read a book on the history of Dungeons and Dragons because I get mad puss. So I read books on Dungeons and Dragons.
oh my God.
The book is called Dungeons and Dragons Art and Arcana. So it's got a lot of cool art in it. But the original version of Dungeons and Dragons, it's just straight up lifted from Lord of the Rings. Like names, characters, design, like it's just Lord of the Rings. And later on they had to change things. Like
Right.
they have hobbits in Dungeons and Dragons, but they call them halflings. Because eventually they were like, we can't use the word hobbit. So yeah,
Right.
it's super foundational. Like everything comes from this.
Yeah, it's really interesting to make those comparisons too, because we don't think of that stuff
Yeah,
because it's been a while, but it's dealing with the source material and thank you, Wikipedia. Like the word Hobbit has come around in different times, but it was never used in the same way as Tolkien did.
yeah,
So like they were clearly, the original Dungeons and Dragons was clearly taking from that because there was it, at least with dwarfs and elves, you
yeah,
can't really
yeah.
trademark that because it's been
Right,
used
right.
so much and around and whatever. But Hobbit specifically is very Tolkien.
Yeah,
Um, but you're right about Gandalf, back to like just back to this animated story of you're right, like it makes sense for the story, and it also it helps with the I don't know, the tension because
yeah,
they're all the things that they're fighting are way bigger than them. Like
yeah.
even though there's 13 of them. Whoa, which by the way, isn't that bad? 14.
Right. Well,
14.
Bilbo makes the 14th.
Right. Um and I think they explain it
But
kind of
there's a
later.
little bit of Snow White in there, right?
Yeah, except
Right?
without women.
Right, obviously. But like the idea that even the idea that they mine and mining's what they do, like you see that in Snow White too. By the way, have you seen the trailers and TV spots for the new Disney live action Snow White film?
No, I try to avoid it.
They're doing something really what's the word? Cowardly maybe? They're doing, and they've not done this with any of the other live action stuff, which is in all of these trailers you see the animated classic Disney film and then it like turns into the new live action as if it's really pushing in your face, this is that, this is Disney. And it could be because there was some quote unquote fake controversy online of the actress who plays Snow White had said something that seemed to demean the old film. So fans were like, this is woke bullshit, whatever. She said something about like it's not all about the prince saving her, and everyone was like, woke bull. Um, so maybe that's why, but it doesn't bode well when you're like, please remember this other movie when thinking about our movie.
Oh my goodness. I
Like we are this, you know that thing you like? We are that thing. We're that thing too, really, when you think about it. That's basically what the marketing is saying.
What
Anyway,
is going to happen when Disney runs out of movies to do as live action or,
I don't know. I really don't
CGI?
know. I have no idea at this
This is
point.
such a weird. Disney has gone through a lot of weird iterations.
Yeah.
Um, this is one of the weirdest and the most banal because I feel
Right.
like the 80s stuff was really, and I guess early 90s was weird, but it kind of
But
worked.
incredible. There was the whole Renaissance with Aladdin and Lion King and Little Mermaid. And
Yeah.
now now they're in a rut almost as bad as the rut they were in the 70s. But at least in the 70s they were trying different shit like Black Cauldron and The Rescuers. Now they're just for the last like 15 or so years all they do is remake the animated stuff. That's their whole trajectory. And that's if you're not counting the other stuff that Disney owns, like Marvel and Star Wars and stuff. Disney itself, all it's doing, it's so what happens like when they hit that wall and there's like we've done it all. I mean, now they're doing like a live action Moana, but Moana, the animated film came out like 10 years ago or something, or like so it's very I don't know what's gonna happen with them.
It's this scrape in the bottom of the barrel. But yeah, I mean, I guess, when you're saying about the 70s stuff, and I guess the 80s before they got into that Renaissance, it was a lot of failure, but it was interesting failure, like you're
Yeah.
saying. I'm also thinking of like this is an anime, but I was thinking of I watched The Watcher in the Woods like 2 months ago.
Oh,
I
I want to see that. That's like that horror film they made, right?
Yeah, it's very weird, and I don't think it fully works, but they took big swings, and I think that's interesting. It's
Did you
also
see?
interesting that like
Yeah.
Betty Davis, isn't it?
Incredible. Did you
That was
see
like
the
one of the
Ted
best things.
TV show?
No.
There's a episode where they're watching it and they're scared, and then the sister keeps pretending to be the girl from the movie and scaring them. It's a pretty funny bit that you would like if you saw the movie. Um, yeah, they were doing interesting shit. They're in a real bad point.
They also did and this is a weird one. They did a adaptation of Ray Bradbury, like a live action, which again is part of that really strange
Mm,
Disney kind of horror, but kind of trying to do family horror.
well, look
So
at
it
like
doesn't
yeah,
what
Black
was it, the
Hole, right?
black
Black
hole?
Hole is like that movie ends in hell. For like a Disney movie, it's super dark. But it's also
Yeah.
boring as hell. You and I saw that together, and I fell asleep in the middle of
Yeah. It was pretty boring. Um
it.
But I mean, yeah, they tried. I'm just like I appreciate the swing and a miss rather than
Yeah,
the whatever bunting. Then this is the extent of my baseball knowledge, everybody.
sure.
Like just the constant bunts of
Yeah,
this live action stuff. I'm just so bored. Like I feel like I've been bored with Disney for a really long time, and
yeah,
I don't even keep track of stuff anymore. I didn't even know there was a new Marvel movie out until I sent you that screenshot of there was some sort of accident or something, and like two people were in this Marvel movie and got
yeah,
hurt. And I was like, there was only two people in this
yeah.
movie.
Thank God. Thank God it was a Marvel movie. Um, so let's talk a little bit about stuff that isn't in this. There's a character from the book called Bjorn who's like a werewolf but a bear. He turns into a bear. That's a whole big sequence in the book that's not in this, which I think would have been cool to see animated.
Hmm.
Also, they don't talk about the Arkenstone. Like the Arkenstone is like the ancestral stone of Thorin's family, and in the treasure, it's the thing he wants the most. And then Bilbo grabs it and hides it, and then uses it to like broker a deal with the elves. And it's just not in it. It's just not at all in it.
Yeah, because at the end of this movie, he just steals like a random cup, right? Like it wasn't
Yeah,
even.
yeah.
And then he takes two bags of gold that like his little pony can have, and he doesn't really get a lot out of it. Though
Well,
you would
it's
argue,
very anti-money in a way.
yeah.
I mean, it's the whole thing. Like the clearly, like Tolkien venerated the idea of hobbits. Like they just care about family and comfort and eating, and they don't want to hurt people, and they don't care that much about wealth. You know what I mean? Like they're just like they're just good people. Um,
I feel like it's simplifying. It's almost like when people are like, they're simple country folk. They
yeah,
they have their values, they have their food, but
yeah.
that's it.
They
And I'm
eat
like,
5 breakfasts. Did
eat
this
five
remind you of
breakfasts.
any of our world right now?
No, what do you mean?
I like that you were my premise completely does nothing for you. You were like, absolutely not. No. When I read it, and maybe because I read it, it's longer than watching this little film. But when I read it, I couldn't help but think about our current time and or complete free fall into fascism. And
Right.
I couldn't help but see Elon Musk in Smaug, right? I mean, I there was once a meme where or a tweet where somebody said, you know, billionaires aren't achievers, they're dragons sleeping on a pile of gold. Um yeah, I just Elon Musk is Smaug.
Yeah, just hoarding money, showing off his abs.
Yes. And just like not because of the money, he thinks he's smart, but he's not.
Yeah, and I understand that this comes from some, like fairy tale and legends and stuff, but like what does a dragon need with gold?
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Why do billionaires need billions? Why do they need tax cuts? What would Elon Musk want? Like Elon Musk is right currently the richest man in the world, right? He why would he need any of the things he's doing? Why would he need to buy a presidency? Why would he need to enable tax cuts to take Medicaid away from people who need it so he can have more money? Like why do billionaires exist?
I
How
mean,
much could you possibly need? I think that's the idea.
no, you have a point. I think I think it just gets to a point of where you don't know what else to do.
Right.
It's kind of like when rich people just start buying expensive versions of stuff that we already have, right?
Right.
Like buying a like I don't know, a $900 bottle of wine. And it's like,
Yes.
why? Because because it exists and I have nothing
Right.
else to
Or like
do.
$1,000 jeans that look like depressed jeans. And it's like, well, you could have just had real jeans and worn them.
Right. Yeah, it gets to a point of like you don't know what to do anymore and you have a whole life to live, so you just keep compounding what you're doing
Well
and you're
that
becoming
right.
more and more.
That's what's interesting about Smaug, right? Because he's a dragon. He's not like buying things. You know what I mean? He's not like he's like, oh, I got gold. I could finally buy that boat I've had my eye on. Like he takes over the ancestral home of the dwarves, and he just then sleeps on the pile of treasure. But even then, you're like, why the fuck did the dwarves have it? Like, what? Why did they need that much to do nothing but collect it, to just hoard it, right? Because and that's what the Battle of Five Armies is about, right? They could help the people that helped them, but the dwarves don't want to until people die,
Only when it's happening to you do you find sympathy.
right?
Yeah, and they also, I'm not usually the person that takes the stance, but I feel like the humans kind of got a shit deal in this movie. It's kind of like, first of all, they lived next to the dragon for all their lives, and they kept some sort of brokered peace. They didn't bother it. It didn't
Right.
bother them. Then like Bilbo disturbs this dragon and pisses him off.
Yeah.
He doesn't fight him or even hurt him in any way, but they disturb the dragon enough that the dragon comes out and starts attacking the village.
Right.
And then Bilbo is like, "Oh, I'm going to talk to this bird and tell the bird that I
Yeah.
saw his one little weak spot, which also it's a giant dragon and there's one scale missing, like a scale
Yeah.
maybe the size of my hand.
Yeah.
The fact that this guy could do that was crazy. But like to shoot it and also shoot one arrow and that
Yeah.
killed the whole dragon. That's insane.
Right.
But anyway, besides all that is yeah, it's just they didn't need to do anything. The humans kind of got roped into a war that they didn't ask for.
Right. And then when they said, "Can we please have some FEMA money to rebuild our town that's fucked up because of what you did?" The dwarves are like, "No. This is our money. It's our pile of gold."
Yeah, that was wild. I was
Yeah.
like, dude, you got no upper hand here. Like you have 13 dwarves and one hobbit. Like you're not
But
what are you
then the other
doing?
dwarves come and help, right? That's one of the armies, like his cousin and
Eventually.
stuff. Yeah, it's and then Gandalf shows up again in the middle of it. They're like, "What are you doing, old man? Get the hell off the fucking battlefield!" And he's like, "Haha, it's me, Gandalf. Y'all tripping."
Yeah,
um,
so okay, so who are the five armies against? We had the dwarves, we had the humans, then we had the elves, right?
the wood elves,
The wood elves show up for some
the
reason.
eagles.
The eagles show up.
How many are we up to?
That's four.
What am I?
What
What
am
am I always
Okay.
have a problem with this. Wait.
To be fair, they didn't really show a lot of the armies. They kind of just said it. And they probably ran out of money at that point.
Wait. I'm gonna just Google who are the five armies in the Hobbit.
Goblins,
Oh,
wolves, elves, men, dwarfs. Okay, there you go. So the goblins show up again. Oh, that's another thing
elves,
with this
men, dwarves.
movie.
No,
Yes.
wait. Elves is one, men is one, dwarves is one, so that's three. Goblins is four, and eagles is five. So goblins and wargs, which is what they call wolves, is one. So it's elves, men, dwarves, goblins, eagles. That's the five.
Yeah.
But again, isn't that again? He didn't do it on purpose. But how is that not World War One? Like everybody gets pulled into this shit. Like it escalates so quickly, and then there's people from all over fighting, just because fucking these people won't give fucking gold to the people they should give gold to. God damn it, Elon Musk. What if the Thor was like, "I'm going to buy Twitter, and then no one will be able to make fun of the dwarves."
Okay, you know what? I think the reason why I didn't make that immediate association is because my the two like meme stuff that's sticking out for me with
Yeah,
Elon Musk is one, someone took his like someone this is like he's a piece of shit, but like I'm not like huge for body shaming, but basically someone took a picture of him like
yeah,
swimming and they like kind of took out his torso, like photoshopped it and turned it around.
yeah.
And because of the way his body is shaped, it looks like a Cybertruck. So I
Yeah,
kind of
that's fun.
it's fun, but it's also like I don't know. I feel like I don't like being. It feels like almost
Right.
punching down, just
Again.
making fun of someone's body. And then there was this. He was at some award. I think he was at the. I don't know. He was in public and he was
Yeah.
really feeding off the energy of the crowd. And he was like doing these weird dance moves
Yeah.
and poses. And someone was like, Elon Musk is like acting like a sim. And then they cut to you ever see promotions for The Sims, the
Yeah.
game, and how they're all like, "Woo, blah, blah, blah," and they're all making these really awkward, weird dancing and stuff like
Yeah.
that? It looks exactly the same.
Have you seen the meme? And I think this is, I like this one. Because Elon Musk is transphobic. He turned his
Naturally.
back on his trans child and is part of this administration that is transphobic. Um, it's the picture of Elon Musk from years ago where he had the rounder face and the balding head. And now he has the square jaw from implants and he has hair plugs. And basically, they're making the argument like, he's had gender affirming care. So if you can have it, why can't other people have it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good argument because no one thinks of it that way. But if your ideal man or woman
Right,
is based on a simple set of characteristics,
right.
and technically a lot of stuff that we do, because we don't talk about gender in that way,
Yeah,
but like a lot of stuff we do, so like hair plugs, dieting, bodybuilding, working out. If anything that you say, I want to do this because I want to get into shape or look good,
yeah,
when you're looking good, you're pointing to a gender ideal, whatever that is.
yes, yeah.
So, but
He
we,
didn't like that he didn't have a square jaw. He wanted the comic book, Johnny Bravo square jaw, and he did implants. It's clear he did implants.
oh yeah, as much money as you can have, most of the time you could still tell when someone has plastic surgery, which I guess that
Right.
depends on the person and if you care that people know that or not. But I think he
Yeah.
cares because he tries to scrub those images from the internet, especially his
Yes.
receding hairline.
The one saving grace, and this is not a saving grace for him, but it's a saving grace for us. The one good thing is that it's at least he's the least charismatic man in the world, right? Like Trump has a charisma for a certain kind of people. People respond to bullies like that, but thank God, Elon Musk, no one likes him. Like he's clearly just a nerd. I think the comedian Bill Burr said this. You're a nerd who pretty girls wouldn't talk to until you became a billionaire. And he's still got those vibes. So we're lucky that he's just completely he sucks the charisma out of the room. He's so uncharismatic.
Yeah, he's so uncomfortable. In every way. He's the definition of like white male mediocrity. Like he is the poster
Yes.
child of that. The only difference is he was born into privilege, so he took that privilege and then like multiplied it to an
By
extreme.
buying other shit. Like he's like for a while people were like, "Oh, he's the Edison of our time." And it's like, well, if you mean you really understand who Edison was, where he was like bought shit and was litigious, then yes. But I think what you mean is that he's an inventor and he's not. He's not an inventor. He bought shit. Um
Yeah,
anyway,
well, that's what money does. and money just buys you power. But
Yeah.
that's the thing, that's the absurdity in this, TV Rankin Bass animated movie is that there is money and people want it, but no one's actually using it to demonstrate that power move.
And
It's
some
just
people
having
need
it.
it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Some people need it. Like there is money. Money exists, but some people hoard it and others starve. And if you think pointing that out makes you a pussy or a communist or whatever nonsense, then you're a soulless idiot. Anyway, this has been Pop Culture Man Children. Nadia, have you ever seen the Peter Jackson films? The Hobbit films?
I didn't. I when I saw how long they were, I'm like, this book is like 130 pages. I don't need like 3.5 hours of this.
Right, right, right.
So I
They're
didn't
not good.
bother. I mean, to give though Peter Jackson some credit, I did when these movies were in production, there was a lot of news at the time that he didn't have a lot of creative control, and he was kind of pressured into making it longer than it should have been. So
Yeah, yeah. There was a lot that went wrong with it. There was a lot that went wrong with it.
there's also away from they moved away from practical effects and kind of
Yeah,
forced a lot of green screen.
yeah. It
But
sucked.
again, I'm talking about this as someone who doesn't want to watch it and has not.
Yeah.
But I would say watch
I
this movie.
To be completely honest with you, the first one, I forget what it's called. The first of the three Hobbit movies is actually not bad, and then they get increasingly worse
The
to
fact that
to being unwatchable.
so I get that, but you telling me something isn't bad does not is not actually selling it to me. I'm like,
No,
this,
you don't have to. I'm not trying to sell it to you. Do not
yeah.
watch it. But I think people listening should watch this animated film. Even if you're just an animation fan, and I think you are if you listen to PCMC, because we talk a lot about animation. This is really good animation. This looks awesome.
It's a lot of fun, and
Yeah.
it's fun to watch sober or stoned. I did both. It was a great
Yeah.
time.
Good for you.
And
Good for you.
really fun music, and weird creatures, and you're not gonna see anything really like it, honestly.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any anime movies that are even close that looks like
Yeah.
this. There was some fun effects, especially with the spider kind of people,
Yeah.
where where the whole and I feel like we don't see that anymore either, but you would see them in older cartoons where it's like instead of an action, they would like freeze frame and then it would just like spin around or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or and the glowy parts. And I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what, this is fun.
Yeah.
This is fun.
This is a good movie. Everyone should watch it. Oh, and you should read the book. It's fun. It's not as much as a commitment as Lord of the Rings. I am slowly making my way through Lord of the Rings.
It's gonna take you like 2 years.
It's going to take me a decade. It's going to take me as long as it took to make the films for me to read it. But anyway, Nadia, thank you so much for being here. I always love when you're here. Um, as you recall, we end every episode by quoting the great Animal, drummer for the Electric Mayhem. What does Animal say?
The greatest adventure. That timber is hilarious. Just for that alone, watch this movie. But all joking aside, go bye bye.